With Eskom still battling to keep the country's lights on, employers are struggling to reduce the negative impact of the power cuts on their businesses. There are growing fears that more jobs are likely going to be lost as a result of these blackouts. Let's talk about the situation with COSATU General Secretary Bheki Ntshalishali, who joins us now. Mr. Ntshalishali, a very good afternoon to you. Welcome to Daytime Update. So speaking yesterday, COSATU President Ntshalishali warned that more job cuts or job losses are likely as a result of the continuing energy crisis in South Africa. Have you raised this with the ANC?
We raise with everyone who cares to listen. We raise it with the ANC. We raise it with government. As you know, that the president and his team has been consulting even trade unions with the efforts of what needed to be done to save our economy and to provide secured electricity to avoid the issue that we are raising, the job losses and the destroying of the economy permanently.
And when you speak to the ANC government, I mean, now President Cyril Ramaphosa has said that in the coming days or so there will be an announcement about what's going to be done about the energy situation. It's come, some would say, 14 years too late since the beginning of load shedding. Do you as COSATU have a feeling that your tripartite alliance partner is moving fast enough to address this crisis?
Yes, we talk to government. We know that there was a decision during the years when even they were warning about lack of investment in Eskom, that it was a deliberate move by them with an intention to privatize Eskom, that government did not invest in Eskom. Now reaping the fruits of that denial, the fruits of not investing in Eskom. So it will not be a surprise that we find ourselves in this situation. We've been vocal and consistent about the issues of Eskom. Whatever we are hearing from government and the many promises, our test on this is about what government in reality will do, what action government will implement, not about just promises as government saying they are engaging.
With that in mind then, what will be the consequences for government from labour if indeed more workers lose their jobs as a result of employers simply not being able to produce or work at the pace that they used to and therefore not making enough money to pay for staff?
Okay, I think there's no need to be even guessing on those things. The writing is on the wall. If you can't provide security supply of energy, it means disinvestment. It means you can't attract investment to a country. It means the economy cannot grow. It means job losses. It means the impact of that is more than on job losses and etc. It means service delivery on essential services like your hospitals, like your schools and many others will be negatively impacted. It means failed state. It means chaos in the country.
But then what will you do about it as Labour? Because the people who are going to be worst affected are the poor and the working class who are your members.
That's why we're engaging. We're engaging both businesses. We're engaging both Eskom. We came up with many positive, in our view, plans that needed to be done in dealing with those issues. We think no political party will afford not to address the issue of Eskom, including the ANC itself, including the government. If people want to remain in government, they remain in power. I think now they can see the impact of not addressing this particular issue.
But how well is that program going when, as things stand, we've been dealing with load shedding for, I think, about 3 weeks straight now? At the worst of it, we even got to stage 4 and 6.
Look, this is a problem. I mean, when we were raising these issues of gear, many people, including people in the media, they did not take us seriously. And now is an impact. It's a social thing. It's not only an issue of labor, it's an issue for the working class, those that will not be able to put private generations to continue with their lives, including businesses. I think this time everybody will be joining labor and say something needed to be done, and it has to be done urgently. Otherwise, we'll be failing as a society. So it's not an issue of just trade union. It's a societal issue. People should join our voices and be able to raise these issues of activity. If we exert enough pressure together and with everybody else,
how would you exert that pressure? How would you exert that pressure? Some are suggesting, the EFF is suggesting that in fact we may need to go in the direction of a national shutdown to address the political and economic issues in this country, including the crisis at Eskom.
We don't think a permanent shutdown will save the issue. I think a permanent shutdown, of course, those people who are raising it, they've got the right to say so. But I think it may fasten the question of collapse of our economy if you are talking about a total shutdown. We need to, we've been speaking to the people who are involved in saying what needed to be done. The COO of Eskom clearly indicates some of the issues that they need to do. For example, on procurement, sometimes they say it takes too long to get the parts that you need because you needed to write a letter to Treasury and wait for a very, very long time. We think those issues needed to be addressed because all the problems now have been put before the president and his cabinet. So they need to know, they know now what needed to be done. We think they will listen. We're not going to stop raising their issues until it makes sense to them.
At what point, though, do conversations with government and Eskom cease to be useful? How much longer would you as COSATU be able to justify to your membership the continuing support of the government of the day when on the energy front, even though we're hearing that all this work is going ahead, load shedding is becoming even more of an irritation with real economic consequences? People are unable to maintain the lifestyles that they were used to 2-3 years ago because economically we're in such a bad place.
The difference between ourselves and other people is that whatever we do it with a mandate from our members. So it's not the leadership that will tell workers whether to support the ANC or not. It's the other way around. It is the members who tell the leadership what to do or whether to announce to support the ANC, etc. We're going to our Congress now in September, in 2 months' time. Members will speak about these particular issues. Unions are consulting as we develop some policies and political position as we move forward. And we'll always listen to what our members say. So there will be no difference this time around. We'll carefully listen what they say and we'll do accordingly. When the members say they still want to vote for the ANC, the leadership will have to implement that one. When the time comes that they will say they are no longer going to vote for the ANC, as the political parties accordingly will oblige.
So COSATU President Ntshalishali, speaking at the COSATU gathering in the Western Cape yesterday, also warned against privatization of Eskom. Is that what you are hearing is going to happen?
We know, as I indicated earlier, that the decision of not investing in Eskom some 20 years ago was intending to privatize Eskom, and that there were people who were looking ahead to buy Eskom, to do what we normally term it as a javelin throwing. We, together with many other civil society and many people, we resisted here. We fought against anti-privatization. But we are realizing now that we are now in this crisis. And there are people who think people who can accept any kind of electricity, whether it comes from private sector or not, they will accept to that one. We think there are people who are feeling that it is the right time to say to people, do you mind where you get electricity, or you will be happy just to receive electricity? And highly people may come back and say, oh, we don't care as long as we can have electricity. But we know, because we know privatization, what it means. It means they will be expensive. Once the private sector take over, because the objective of a private sector is to make money, is to make profit, is to make and to put profit before people. So it is our responsibility to guide against that one and be able to fight it. We are opposed, for example, to the unbundling of Eskom, because we know that the problem in Eskom was not about unbundling, was the question of not investing in Eskom, was the question of allowing corruption to take its root, was the question of allowing some business interests to take over to an extent that what we had before the Zondo Commission confirmed the intention by some, including some people in government.
Do you believe then that this recent talk about the establishment of a second state-owned entity dealing with what is energy provision, what Eskom is supposed to be doing, is that a backdoor introduction, do you think, of privatization? Because that's been some of the reaction since we heard those comments.
The issues of having the second generation is not about, I think it's about renewable energy, having another institution that will be dealing with renewable energy, vis-a-vis Eskom, which is dealing with the coal-fired power station. The world is moving towards the renewable energy, and our view is that the state should be moving to that space itself, because if we allow only the independent power producers, which in the main are private to own, and we can see it now, I mean, the cost of them producing a unit is too high than Eskom. So they are selling and being subsidized by Eskom. Our view is that Eskom, maybe we are using Eskom just to reflect a state-owned company. Another state-owned company can be established to move to that direction.
Why can't we just capacitate Eskom to be able to do that and have all of this in or under one roof? Also, when you consider that establishing a whole new other entity would come with cost implications for the government in a country that's already said it can't afford to splurge.
It's because Eskom itself, in the way it has been structured, is not in a position to go to renewable energy. It will be like you have then to destroy all the power station, so you will not be saving cost by trying just to convert Eskom to be something that it was never planned to be. Eskom is a coal-fired power station. It gets its generation, its electricity from that directive. The renewable energy may not go to the issues of just Eskom. And to convert it to have a clean energy out of coal may be too expensive. So Eskom must occupy the space, must be able to get funding, because there are funds available for renewable energy. There are people who might be, the state may be able to secure that kind of funding.
Does it not speak, though, to a problem in South Africa where whenever one thing fails or is not functioning as it should, we establish another alternative instead of fixing the original plan to make sure that that indeed works, even beyond the energy space? When you look at task teams and everything that we often hear about from government, to better a previous pronouncement, we establish another team, another entity to basically do something that's the same or similar.
Eskom is separate. It's a different nature. Remember, the other things that people were talking about was the question of the nuclear. Maybe as an opposition to Eskom, we know the cost related to the nuclear in the beginning, if you want to go to a different approach. But the issues of another committee, another investigation, I think is a sickness that our state has been exposed to. So we'll not easily agree that every time there is a problem, you don't fix it, you look somewhere else and create some new entity having the same problem again and again. So to that extent, we're not a supporter that every time there's a problem, you just look the other way, fix what needed to be fixed, and be able to move forward. So
get the basics right instead of always looking to build a new thing to do the same, to address the same issue. No?
Yeah, no, we fully agree that, but in these cases, we know what has happened. We know the question of the paging that was done in some instances just because people want to loot. We know that in some instances there were skills, people with skills were pushed aside because people got an intention to do something wrong. So we know we will not support every institution to be saying, no, ditch that one, make it a white elephant and look for something else, somewhere else. We'll be saying fix what is wrong, and until such time it comes to a point, for an example, that maybe some of the power stations are aging because they have lived for 40 years and then you need to do something. In that instances, we'll be able to support, but not in all respect. We'll be saying every time you face some problem, you look the other way around and you start set up something new.
Bheki Ntshalishali from COSATU, good to have your time as always, so thank you.